necessary step in order to bring spending in line with realistic collection. Work is being done to restore internal systems and controls in the Group Finance Department. To assist the city in this task, 2 highly experienced financial managers have been seconded from National Treasury, and they are here working with us. In the time it takes to fill the position of CFO, which has also been advertised, the city manager has received the go-ahead from the Municipal Council to seek the secondment of a competent person from a different organ of state in order to act in the position of CFO. In this regard, we hope to make a recommendation to the Municipal Council in the coming month. Work is also being done on the funding plan, the financial recovery plan, that is so essential to making sure that our revenue matches our expenditure. The funding plan, which will be presented to the Municipal Council in the coming months, will include measures to source special funding for targeted infrastructure investment that will reduce water and electricity losses, sweat the city's existing assets, which includes long-term leases, as well as the sale of land and buildings not required for service delivery, and review the current model of delivering certain services, including the management of the city's resorts, the Wonderboom Airport, and the fresh produce market. We must be honest about the functions that the city no longer has the capacity to deliver on our own, and some which are entirely outside of our current constitutional mandate. While national and provincial government receive the lion's share of tax revenue, the demands on municipalities, which have the smallest share, continue to grow by the day. I've previously stated that the city's financial position is critical but recoverable, and this is how we will continue to treat it. In this sense, partnerships with civil society and the private sector, the free market, are also essential to ensuring our long-term financial sustainability and the gradual improvement in service delivery. In mentioning this, let me acknowledge organizations such as the Henops River Revival for the work that they have done to assist us with the cleanup of rivers, organizations such as Solbent, which helps to keep Pretoria West and Atteridgeville clean, Hollard for their support of our efforts to manage our fire hydrants, and so many other NGOs, civil society organizations, and business organizations that go above and beyond simply meeting their civic obligations. Undoubtedly, one of our most valuable partnerships has been with the Danish government and their support of our water security project, which has begun with 33 million to support us to enhance our research and our standard operating procedures in terms of water security, wastewater management, and infrastructure. Speaker, in responding to the findings of the Auditor General, we have to be clear that the city is unlikely to move to a clean or even an unqualified audit for the present financial year. It is especially the AG's findings on the valuation and classification of our property, plant, and equipment that will take more than one financial year to redress. Last week, the city manager, the MMC for Finance, and I met officials from the AG's office to understand their interactions with the city administration and to explain to them what we are doing to make sure that the systems and controls are put in place to achieve at least an unqualified audit for the next financial year, and that is the financial year that starts on the 1st of July 2023. The adverse audit received for 2021-22 was the result of serious misrepresentations made by the former CFO of the city, but it was also because of an unjustified confidence placed in the then management of the city to provide clear, coherent, and accurate information. The mayoral committee and I are taking a far more rigorous approach, and so we've established an executive audit tracking committee to monitor the progress in responding to the findings of the AG. In turn, the city manager has established 3 dedicated task teams to look at the most important findings of the AG and to ensure that we put the systems and processes in place not to repeat those mistakes, and that's cash flow, trade receivables, and of course, property, plant, and equipment, which I referred to a moment ago. Speaker, while the adverse audit finding was devastating for the city, in one sense, it was perhaps exactly the medicine that we needed, compelling us to face truths and to make bold decisions which have long been avoided. The Mayoral Committee and I are committed to getting us out of an adverse audit opinion, but I also have to caution that doing so will take time, strong leadership, clear accountability, and consequence management directed at those officials who refuse to support these efforts. These two objectives, financial sustainability and responding to the findings of the Auditor General, will be top of our agenda. In fact, they are interrelated. A stronger audit environment means better fiscal discipline and vice versa. And with the right controls in place, we can make significant progress towards achieving both of these goals. Speaker, in the next 3 years, it is imperative that the city reduces our dependence on Eskom for the supply of the about 2,500 megawatt of electricity that we currently use. In the next 3 years, we need to either generate or procure, or both, at least 1,000 megawatt of that electricity independent of Eskom. And that is a goal we are setting for the organization. Before the end of this financial year, the Energy Task Team that was appointed by the Mayoral Committee will devise and publish a request for proposals to the market on the use of the Rooiwal power station. Whatever proposal is presented and accepted, it must be sustainable and it must be affordable. The request for proposals will be followed by a public participation process, hopefully in agreement with private partners in the next year, so that we can unlock the energy generating capacity at Rooiwal and reduce the burden of load shedding on our communities. A similar approach, in line with our supply chain management laws and policies, those that have bearing on the municipality, will be followed in procuring electricity from IPPs. In the process, we will learn from the progress already made in cities such as Cape Town and Ekurhuleni. While improving revenue collection, managing expenditure and cash flow is the immediate priority of the city, mitigating and eventually ending load shedding in Tshwane is the most important. At the same time, we have to do what we can to stabilize the city's electricity distribution network so that we reduce the number of electricity outages suffered by our communities. In the draft budget for the 23-24 financial year, we propose to allocate R1 billion for water and electricity infrastructure. As we improve our long-term planning and our capacity to source capital funding, this allocation will gradually improve in the coming years. The R134 million Vaarpadrand refurbishment project is underway and the progress is at 40% to completion. The project is scheduled to be completed in the 24-25 financial year. On the refurbishment of the Mooikloof substation, the site was handed over in February of this year, with control panels being ordered and factory acceptance tests being scheduled for this month. Work has begun on the Pyramid and the Kentron substations, where we expect to complete those projects in the 24-25 financial year. In Region 5, the city has also submitted an application to Eskom for the new planned Refilwe substation, which will further build our capacity in the area. Some of the key work by our electricity department for the upcoming financial year includes a number of construction and refurbishment projects, including the Roslyn substations, 132 kV power lines in Shoshanguve, the completion of the substation in Monavoni, a new wildebeest infeed station, and modifying the infrastructure at Princess Park, including the replacement of panels, switching gear, and the decommissioning of old infrastructure. The city has a number of serious multi-billion rand infrastructure backlogs in wastewater and water treatment. This week, I spent time in Cape Town with other mayors of metropolitan cities in an engagement sponsored by National Treasury. And it became clear to me that we will have to radically change our approach to project planning and project funding. We need to increase our planning horizon, but also be more sophisticated in our approach of funding our plans. We also need more effective partnerships, including with other spheres of government. The Rooiwal wastewater treatment plant requires special attention. It is an issue that is not only essential to the unity of our coalition government, but also to the reputation of the city as one that cares for its people, especially its most vulnerable communities. And let me be clear, Rooiwal is a stain on the conscience of our city, including successive administrations in Tshwane. But Rooiwal is also a warning of what could happen to other communities unless we clean out our supply chain management system, which in this city is quite frankly a festering sore that has infected the rest of the body. Whether the cause of this failure is corruption or inefficiency or both, we can no longer tolerate a system, including a management team, that produces one multi-billion rand irregular tender after the other. This week I met with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu. We spoke about the long-standing issues at Rooiwal going back to the 2000s. We also discussed the more recent tender irregularities and the contractual malperformance which has led to delays in the upgrading of the plant. Rooiwal is, as I mentioned, organically and mechanically overloaded. The second crucial phase of the upgrades will cost 2.5 billion rand. That, colleagues, is the entire capital budget for this city in one financial year. And so, while we have to complete phase 1 and phase 2 of the upgrades, we also have to admit that the city cannot solve this problem by ourselves in the time frame which we have set out in the budgets and in the outer years. We have run out of time and we have run out of the patience of people. We cannot stick to the current timeline of trying to fix Rooiwal with our own limited resources. We desperately need help, and as a mayoral committee, we are humble enough to admit that fact. In the next 2 weeks, I will meet with the Minister and our technical teams to discuss the issues at Rooiwal, as well as potential collaboration with the National Department and water entities such as Magalies Water and Rand Water. And a proposal will be made to the mayoral committee in council in this regard. In the meantime, I've asked the city manager to take whatever steps can be taken, including the installation of 2 belt presses that have already been procured in order to improve the situation and the effluent at Rooiwal. These belt presses, once installed, will have a significant effect, and therefore also on the purified water at Temba. But improvement of Rooiwal's capacity is not enough. We also need to take a closer look at the upstream pollution of the Apis River, including the possible release of industrial effluent into the river that can be traced back to industrial areas. Through engagements with water experts from Israel and Denmark, it's become clear to us that rigorous environmental policing is essential and a hitherto neglected part of improving the quality of water to the people of Hammanskraal and Pretoria North. I've already mentioned that reducing non-revenue water will be an essential part of the city's funding plan for the next financial year. We've entered into a partnership and collaboration with the city of Aarhus in Denmark, as well as the Development Bank of Southern Africa on projects related to this mission. As I mentioned, the Danish are providing us 33 million rand in funding aimed at enhancing internal capacity to reduce water losses, manage our wastewater treatment plants better, reduce their workload, and explore opportunities of developing our own water security strategies. Concrete examples of what can be achieved with this will be standard operating procedures and just a better functioning of our wastewater treatment facilities, as well as training programs to city officials. This then will inform the technology that the city will acquire so that we don't waste money on shiny new projects. Based on our climate action plan, we'll also be exploring the full range of possibilities for sustainable water, electricity, and waste disposal projects. We will depend, as I mentioned, on partnerships with national government as well as NGOs and businesses. And even though in some cases we're not in the financial position to fund all of these projects, we will incorporate them into our long-term planning so that we signal to investors and the outside world what our policy intentions are. Like the City of Cape Town, we have to start planning for the next decade instead of simply for the next financial year. We're also prioritizing our aged water infrastructure with an investment of 165 million on water demand and water loss management projects, and 12.5 kilometers of old water asbestos pipes will be replaced in communities such as Mamelodi, Clubview, Rimba Park, Mountain View, Constantia Park, and Eersterus. Furthermore, to address water shortages and water quality, especially in Region 7, the city has prioritized the refurbishment of the Bronkhorstspruit water treatment plant so that that plant can operate effectively according to its design. An initial allocation of 5 million rand has been allocated in the next financial year to start this process. Speaker, with 4,000 officers, the Tshwane Metro Police is one of the largest in the country. This is an enormous investment in the safety of our residents, but unfortunately, that investment has not been paying the expected returns. The core mandate of the TMBD is bylaw enforcement, visible policing, and traffic control. But, as many of our residents will experience, at the height of stage 5 and 6 load shedding, it seems that the city is almost entirely dependent on OUTsurance points people to direct traffic in the absence of functional traffic lights. While we value our partnership with OUTsurance and will seek to extend that partnership in the years to come, it cannot be that the city has abdicated the responsibility of traffic control entirely. We have highly trained, well-remunerated officers whose work can be organized in order to get things done, even if the supplies and the working conditions aren't perfect. I emphasize this point on traffic control as a core function of the TMPD, simply to also point out that we have to take steps to improve the productivity of our entire workforce. This includes performance management, but it also includes small steps that can be taken to make it easier for people to do the work which they already want to do. If we can get the TMPD to control traffic, I believe we can also enhance their other crucial functions, including bylaw enforcement and visible policing. The relentless criminal assault on our service infrastructure requires us to use all of the resources at our disposal to secure our electricity infrastructure against vandalism and theft and abuse. And in this regard, I want to acknowledge the work being done by TMPD officers, especially when they help city technicians and artisans to do work in dangerous and volatile circumstances. I ask that residents treat these officers and the artisans and technicians they accompany like heroes, because they are heroes. And I also want to be clear that the city will not tolerate criminal attacks on our staff, whether or not these attacks come in the guise of so-called community protests. This is not how any of the men and women who work for the city sacrifice their own lives and their own well-being should be treated. The member of the Mayoral Committee for Community Safety has a vision for the TMPD that can make it more productive and more effective in the coming years, including the establishment of a control center where information can be shared in real time by different departments of the city. In safeguarding our city and the services to the people of Tshwane, we must follow a whole-of-society approach, which means embracing the partnerships with NGOs, residents associations, neighborhood watches, and community policing forums. We also have to review the laws and bylaws, the policies that prevent civil society organizations from helping the city to do what it is not within our own capacity to do, such as cleaning stormwater drains. An example of effective partnership is the Hatfield City Improvement District, which has proved to be exceptional in enhancing policing, bylaw enforcement, and crime prevention in that particular area. The Hatfield satellite station is operational 24/7 and is dedicated to safeguarding that area, and we've allocated motor vehicles as well as bicycles to assist that unit. Daily, we've got 10 officers that patrol that area, and this model also has the potential of being rolled out in other areas of the city. Last month, I attended the launch of the Roslyn Improvement District, which will see further active participation by businesses, cooperation with TMPD to combat crime and to make communities safer and cleaner, particularly around critical infrastructure which needs protection. Technology is also crucial, as is the sharing of data about criminal hotspots so that we can respond to cable theft. And here, we've got to work with the private security companies to share data. If there are risks in that regard, those risks can be managed. The biggest risk would be to simply continue and do nothing. I'm pleased to announce that since July 2022 until March of this year, the TMPD's Cable Theft Unit has conducted 2,288 patrols and attended to various incidents across the city. We've had at least 65 incidents which have been prevented and several arrests have been made. Of course, it's not enough, but it is the little that the city can do to augment what the South African police should do. Aligned to our smart city vision is the TMPD and its investigative ability and the way it uses technology. And one of the things that we will do is to pilot handheld devices for Metro Police officers to enable them to make fewer mistakes so we can get more convictions. Moving to the Emergency Services Department, the department is strengthening its functioning with the delivery of district command vehicles and one 18,000-litre water carrier for firefighting purposes. During the 2021 State of the City address, my predecessor, Alderman Randall Williams, promised the finalization of the Mamelodi fire station, and I'm glad to report that this fire station is fully operational as from December last year. The fire station provides relief to Mamelodi and Nalmepius, but also to surrounding areas, providing backup to fire stations in Silverton, as well as our crucial special economic zone in Silverton. Speaker, in the city of Tshwane, we have approximately 19,500 full-time employees working across various departments. But for years, the city has not had a proper system to manage their performance or to make their work productive. Also to encourage a culture of professionalism and commitment in their work. To move the city forward on each of the key mayoral priorities and the coalition priorities that I have outlined, we will be signing a set of performance charters with the city manager that will include detailed steps that need to be taken to help us fulfill our mandate and our promise to the people of Tshwane. It will form the basis of holding officials to account, but it will also form the basis of our own accountability to the people of Tshwane. As we undertake these steps, there will be hits and misses. While officials who seek to enrich themselves will have zero protection, we have to take steps to protect officials who make mistakes in a genuine effort to get things done. We have to give those officials a perimeter within which to make mistakes. Otherwise, the only thing they will be doing is to chase compliance instead of doing innovative and new things. The members of the Mayoral Committee and I will protect the honest, hard-working people of the city from the risk takers and will distinguish the genuine efforts of our employees from the corrupt. Because certainly the majority of our employees are honest, hard-working people who simply want to do their jobs better. Our robust performance management system will ensure that we can enforce discipline, but also that we can assist officials to do the jobs to which they've been appointed. We will be implementing these key policies, and by the 1st of July, in the new financial year, we'll fully implement the performance management policy which this council has approved. In this financial year, the city has, as I mentioned, approved this performance management policy, but we've got to go further than that and implement a talent management policy which allows folks who are already in the system to apply for positions and to get promotion instead of going through the long process. We'll be making specific suggestions to the municipal council in that regard. It is critically important that we enhance the quality of the work done by our employees, and that we deliver value for the money that residents pay in tariffs and charges. But we don't need to wait for policies to acknowledge and to reward the existing excellent work that's already being done by superstars in our city, and to hold up their example to other employees. Our talent management system will help in this regard, but I want to highlight, Speaker, a few of the excellent examples that we have so that we can encourage this performance. Here are some of the superstars. Lazarus Moimane is the Deputy Director of Water in Region 1 of our city, an area which includes Shoshanguve, Mabopane, Winterveld, Acacia, and various other areas towards the north of the city. When recently the city ran out of stores in order to do important work, Lazarus did not complain about this or wait for supply chain management. He put his hand in his own pocket and bought the stores that were needed to do the work. Now, this is exceptional. It's not what we can expect from our workforce, but heaven knows when it happens, it must be acknowledged and applauded. Ella Pretorius is responsible for the inner city cleanup, a job that has to be done entirely anew every day, and for which she and her team do not have all of the resources needed. But Ella and her team are wonder workers in urban management and parks management. Judging by the work she can do with the meager resources, we can only imagine what she can do if more resources are given to her. Godfrey Nguni is the regional head for Region 2. Councillors and fellow officials tell me that it is almost impossible to dislike Godfrey simply because he is always ready to help. He is a center of excellence, and like Ella, his work will form part of new standard operating procedures and protocols that can be implemented in other departments and regions in the city. And so I can name many more. Nicoline Leroux, a leader in the field of city planning. Puti Moloto, the engineer in charge of regional electricity, and someone whose technical ability is only matched by his personal dedication. To every Lazarus, Ella, Godfrey, Nicoline, and Puti, thank you, thank you, thank you. The city manager, the mayoral committee, and I will set out to create the conditions in Tshwane that will make it a city and an employer of choice for people like you. You prove that there is nothing wrong with Tshwane that cannot be fixed with what is right with Tshwane. Honourable Speaker, in conclusion, we face a number of very difficult weeks and months. Load shedding, the effect on our infrastructure, our financial situation, the fact that criminals will try and exploit the situation for their own benefit. The notice by Eskom that we must prepare for stage 8 load shedding. We will need to take every possible measure to protect the communities of Tshwane against this situation. But it will also be an opportunity for us to dig in deep, to come up with innovations and solutions that go beyond the limitations of budget and personnel, to find innovative solutions, and to tap into that spirit that makes us proud to be South Africans and makes us determined to show the rest of the country that we can make the capital city work, that we can make it work for all of its people. And if we succeed in doing so, I believe that we will restore hope in the future of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. I see a hand, Councillor Obake.
No, thank you, Speaker. I just want to check why Executive Mayor is repeating the speech of Randall. Because there's nothing that he has said that Randall didn't tell us. It's the same repetition, and we will respond at the right time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that the councillor is asking me. So please don't assist me. No, he's asking me. So please, there will be time for a debate on this speech, which is taking next week. We'll have it next week. So let me just finish the agenda that we have today by saying, honorable councillors and distinguished guests, let me thank the Executive Mayor for what I think was a very insightful and stimulating address. The debate on this State of the Capital address will take place during the council meeting on the 25th May 2023. Members of the public are welcomed to attend. Kindly note that the speech of the Executive Mayor can be herefter be accessed from the City of Tshwane intranet and its website. Honorable councillors and distinguished guests, I thank you for attending this special occasion. This meeting is now concluded. The meeting is adjourned.
tshamekelang a ke ba tshamekelang exam ya go mo kopaka o tseng gore re mo kgatselele ke ana tseng di taba di ba go rona mo dire so no nna ke sa mma tshamekelang
le tshwere meeting wa go zone ya le
ya ebile ne ke re ke ba batla bana so wena nna ke teng a ko tsena nako tsena go ya mo TNC ma hai e re ke tsamaya ko tsao le
maloba di-official di yang go batla ba rawa ba tla teng re go sta bua
ya eng
ka nteng ele
ya eng e feng
ke ga maloba na gore le ko IDP
oh la simpitsi kanti wena simpitsi
maro tsamaile gore ya sentle
ne ke na le o bone ebile le no le taere la ka ne le na le proof ebile gona baneng ke tsamaya ka biscuit ba re tlwaela bale a ke re le no bantse ba re shasho wa re o wa mfounela ga le mo mathateng ba tsentshitse wodi yaka wa mfo o ikry-ile report a teng ele ya national ya re batho ga ya di-by-election lebogang ba re leboga ba botse gore ga ona di-by-election tsa sepe la itse by-election re fele kae gane ee e tlo sendela yona report a teng ba re 24 vote ya lerato bomang ba ya by-electioneng kore o and I can tell you give a little bit of